Of open, accessible and transparent government, Berrigan Shire Council's meetings are recorded. By speaking at a council meeting, members of the public agree to being recorded. Berrigan Shire Council accepts no liability for any defamatory, discriminatory or offensive remarks or gestures that are made during the course of the council meeting. Opinions expressed or statements made by individuals are the opinions or statements of those individuals and do not imply any form of endorsement by Berrigan Shire Council. Confidential matters of council will not be recorded. Recordings are protected by copyright and owned by Berrigan Shire Council. No part may be copied, recorded, reproduced or transmitted without the prior written consent of the CEO. Any recording is not and shall not be taken to be an official record of Berrigan Shire Council meetings or the discussion depicted therein. Only the official minutes may be relied upon as an official record of the meeting. A recording of the council meeting will be taken for administrative and minute preparation purposes only and is provided to the public for listening purposes to support council's statutory obligations. Berrigan Shire Council acknowledges the traditional custodians of the lands on which we live and thrive. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. The people of these great nations, their spirits and ancestors will always remain with our waterways and lands. Item 3.1, apologies and leaves of absence. We don't have any. 3.2, applications for leave of absence. Do we have any? No. 3.3, attendance via audio-visual link. We have Councillor Payne on audio-visual for caring purposes. Do we have a mover for Councillor Payne's attendance? Councillor Healy, seconder.
Yep.
Councillor Brooker, all in favour? Thank you, carried. Confirmation of previous minutes. The recommendation is that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held in the council chambers on the 22nd of January 2025 be confirmed. Do we have a mover? Councillor Natikoa, seconder. Yep. Councillor Brooker. I do have a comment in relation to, it was the resolution relating to study leave. It said a CEO study policy. The intention was a study policy more broadly. However, I understand that there may be some nuances about the manner in which that's delivered. We might have to do a separate CEO and a separate staff one. But the objective is to have a equitable study policy that applies to everybody. So if we could have that amendment, and if our movers and seconders are happy with that amendment. Okay, any other comments?
So, sorry, can I just clarify? So,
Yep.
And again, conscious of what the resolution was on the day, the resolution wasn't a CEO staff policy, it was a council staff policy. Mm-hmm. So for councillors and employees or just employees? Just employees.
Everybody.
Everybody. An overarching Berrigan Shire Council
leave all
policy.
Staff. For all staff.
Okay, it's an overarching staff leave policy.
Study
so
policy.
that was the resolution that was passed at the time.
Yes.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yes. We'll sort out how it's delivered after. Yeah.
Wonderful. No, that's okay. I just want to be clear on what the actual resolution at the time. If it needs to be nuanced, we can work on that.
Yeah, easy. Okay, all in favour of passing those minutes? Thank you, carried. Do we have any disclosures of interest? No mayoral minutes, no reports of committees. Okay, we're up to item 8.1, and that is for information only. 8.2 is also information only. 8.3.
I've got a on 8.2.
Yep, all right, so 8.1 through to 8.3, sorry, are all for information, and we have a question in relation to 8.2, yeah?
Yeah, probably a couple of questions.
Yep.
Just in relation to the status of the jobs. So 107/2022, sorry, I wanted to get this up. Can't see that one. I think it was one of the older resolutions. Maybe it was in. So it was 107/2022. I was just wondering whether that was actually coming to council. No, I can't find where it was. It was one of the older.
So not a council request. It was a.
Sorry, I was trying to get this up before.
Apologies.
And I can't find where the list of actions is.
Sorry,
Is this 8.5 rather than 8.2?
Oh, maybe. Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, apologies.
No, all good. So, doesn't matter. Okay, so 8.1, 8.2, 8.3 are all for information. So if no one's got any queries, we'll move on. 8.4 and 8.5 are for noting. So if we have a mover, if we move those as a block. Councillor Payne, a seconder.
I can second.
Councillor Healy, anyone got any questions or comments for 8.4? No, and 8.5, Councillor Natikoa.
Yes, so. Still not there.
It starts on page 50 of the,
Thank you. So it was 107 of 22, which I think is the first one. Yeah. So CEO to formalise the Crown land lease occupancy for the Tokemore War Memorial Hall. Is that coming to council?
yes, it is.
So like we've obviously got stuff back from Crown Lands and we just haven't responded as yet.
Okay, so we have, it's a bit of a process. So we have the laundromat in there, which is running on a licence. Now,
Okay.
to formalise that licence into a formal lease, we need a Crown Land plan of management.
Yep.
The plan of management has taken some time to put together. It's a complicated and convoluted process they have. However, we have submitted a draft plan to Crown Lands. Crown Lands have responded back with some questions that, and some statements that I don't quite agree with, more about the status of the actual hall itself in terms of its status as a reserve. We met with Crown Lands yesterday to get some clarification on those items. We believe we are right to go and we can respond now.
Okay.
Once we have a Crown Land plan of management that Crown Lands allow us to exhibit, we will then go on exhibition. We'll go on exhibition for 28 days. The community can then respond, then it'll come back, then we have an adopted plan. Then I can go away and draft a Crown Land lease
Yep.
for the laundromat. So it's been,
It's a
I know it's been a
process.
mammoth process, but that's the way the Crown Land Management Act works.
Yep. Okay.
It doesn't help us.
No.
anything else for 8.5?
But it will come back.
Yeah. Sorry, I've got a few.
Yeah, no worries.
The Foundry Park. Who's actually talking to Outdoor and More around that artwork installation?
Okay. So in terms of, I've spoken to a proposed artist. The proposed artist has given me back a proposal which looks reasonable to me. We need to confirm, obviously, approval and permission to paint on the wall.
Yep.
And have that in writing so that we are sure it can't be painted over or whatever if I'm going to spend
Yep.
the budget allowance, which is council gave me $10,000.
Yep.
Which is on the record. I will need to work with probably some of the elected members on having a discussion with the property owner to ensure that we've got some security there.
Yep. Okay. Great.
I'll volunteer.
I'm happy to go in with somebody.
Councillor Payne will be with you, Councillor Natikoa.
Yep.
Anyway, I am suggesting that I'll need somebody from the elected body to to be part of it.
I'm happy to attend.
The Lewis Crescent housing.
A report coming to a future meeting on the future of that project.
Okay.
That's covered in the,
The QBRS.
yeah.
Yes.
Q, that's what I thought. Yeah. The Chanter Street update, is that different to the power lines going underground, or is it the same?
No, it's the same process.
Okay.
It's just that was the title of the report that it was presented. I'm trying to get the action items to the agenda, so if there's multiple resolutions to one, on one project, to try and
Yeah.
cut it down to one, but yes, I might need to modify the name of that one.
Yep, okay.
Do you need an update on?
No, it was just trying to get my head straight
Yep.
that whether they were the same thing, just raised at two different times kind of thing. And obviously any of the Crown lands, you're all at the same spot with any of those
Crown land plans.
Crown land plans. And just going down. Yep, so I think the other ones were just related to works requests from 8.2, so I've obviously just got them
Okay.
muddled up, so I'll leave them for now.
Okay, so all in favour of noting 8.4 and 8.5? Thank you. Carried. 8.6, we have finance accounts for January. The recommendation is that Council A receive the financial statement, bank reconciliation certificate and petty cash book made up to 31 January 2025. B, confirm the accounts paid as per warrant number 01-25 totalling $1,998,183.84. And C, note the report on investments attached. Do we have a mover? Councillor Stringer, a seconder?
Yep.
Councillor Natikawa, any questions or comments?
I have a question just in regards to the investment report. I just think, because we've been recommended maybe like 3 or 4 times that we shift our, or highly recommended, to stagger our investments, our deposit investments, and also incrementally extend our deposit portfolios. And I'm just wondering if there's a reason that that keeps being, I don't know the process, so why that keeps being recommended and the reason that we're not
In the
doing that?
external report?
That's
investment
the investment report.
Yep. Simon, Director Corporate Services?
If I could just clarify, Councillor, the recommendations in the report themselves that have been tabled,
Yeah.
having been in the role for a few months now, I find these reports not to be functionally beneficial at the moment for stakeholders. We have a legislative requirement to report on our investments, but beyond that, I think some of the language hasn't been reviewed in some time. So I'm in the process of looking at our monthly reporting to provide not only the legislative requirements, but also some actual management reporting, so we have an understanding of our financial position.
Yeah.
So that's a body of work that's currently happening with our budget reform.
Right. Those external investment reports, I understand because I'm channeling former Councillor Reynoldsson, they cost us about 10 grand. Do we have to have them? Because I don't find them particularly useful. I don't know about anybody else.
And Madam, which element you're referring to? This report
The
itself?
ones in the appendices,
The ones in
the
Arlo
external
advisory.
Can I- if I
investment
could-
report. Yeah.
Through you, Mayor.
Yeah.
Just to clarify Councillor Healy's inquiry, in terms of the recommendations, you're not talking about recommendations made by staff in the
No,
actual
that's
report. You're talking
the
about
Arlo.
the recommendations coming from the Arlo advisory
Yeah, that's
report that
correct.
accompanies the agenda. Okay.
Oh.
Fine. So on that, in terms of the recommendations, they're recommendations. It doesn't necessarily mean the recommendations from our advisors. How we implement them is obviously on us and how we manage our portfolio. If there's changes that you would like to make or recommend that we make, we can certainly suggest those. In the main, though, you've delegated to Karina and Karina sub-delegated people to manage the portfolio on your behalf. In terms of the reports from Arlo Investments, we're not paying for those necessarily. What we're paying for is the support in terms of managing our portfolio through them, and the investment comes as a part of the process. We can go back to managing all our term deposits on our own if we choose. It's given the number and the amount of them, it's time consuming, but we don't necessarily need to have all that many, provided that we have got liquidity when we need it. If you would like, councillors, we can go back and review the whole management of the investment portfolio overall if you think it needs a change.
From,
But that would need-
from our last year's annual report, our investment income is doubled in the
Yeah.
last couple of years
Yeah.
because we changed the way we were doing our
Yeah,
investment.
Councillor
Those rates have gone up.
Natikawa?
And yeah, one of it was almost 2%, I think. They were saying you could have an increase of this, and obviously any increase that we can,
So certainly the
gain.
recommendation from them has been to
Yep.
have longer term investments,
Okay.
which is fine when we're a bit more comfortable with the
Yep.
cash that we have and when we're going to need it.
Yep.
So to do some of that
so
work.
it's more a timing issue of
we
being
would
able
need-
to access the funds
we would
to
need-
use them as we needed.
Yep.
So in terms of having things like our asset management plans, our long-term financial plans to say, okay, we've got X million dollars in water, we know that we're not going to need some of that for X years, we might be able to lock in
Yep.
higher rates. But that's work that we would need to do
Manage.
when we haven't done.
And thank you for the clarification. The nature of that advice is generic as well.
Yes.
We're paying for a platform, so it's,
Right.
you know, the same disclaimer you'll hear when you listen to financial advice on a TV show. You know, that's generic advice. It may not fit our circumstances. So apologies for my misunderstanding of the question, but that is not a specific recommendation due to our interaction with that party. They're just giving us that generic advice.
Can we perhaps, and I'm not suggesting that we move it today, but just give some consideration and corporate service, how we might consider our investment portfolio moving forward? I'm sure you already got that in mind, so. Anything else?
Can I
Councillor
just
Brooker?
Can I just ask a quick question? And it's probably late to be asking this in my term, but we're confirming the accounts paid per the warrant, but we don't actually see what they are, do we?
No.
What that warrant was and what that figure totals.
It's a great question, Councillor Brooker, and I'm yet to establish why that query is asked of you. It may relate to a delegation interpretation. Whether that's necessary or not, it's yet for me to establish that definitively.
All right, so all in favour of the recommendation? Thank you, carried. Right, 8.7 was the operational plan review for Q2 24-25. The recommendation is that council receive and note the Q2 report on actions identified in the 24-25 operational plan. Do we have a mover?
Yep.
Councillor Natikoa, a seconder?
Yep. Councillor Payne.
Councillor Payne's
Councillor
on the
Payne.
screen.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments? No? Okay. All right. All in favour? Rico, thank you. Carried. 8.8 is the financial quarterly business review statement 2, financial year 24-25, Q2. The recommendation is to note the December 2024 quarterly budget review statement attached as Appendix 1 and to note the second quarterly review of the 24-25 budget and vote the funds contained therein as shown in Appendix 1. Do we have a mover?
Yep.
Councillor Healy, seconder. Councillor Stringer. Director Corporate Services, perhaps it might be good for you to provide an overview on this for us before we move to questions.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. QBRS 2 has seen some change in our financial settings due to some reconciliations at the December mark. If you see within the report, we currently look to have on a consolidated basis a deficit of 6.1 million and a operating surplus of 130K on a consolidated basis. That's on page... Sorry, if I can get to the bottom of this page 31 of the council agenda. The nature of that is that we are in a position that is not dissimilar to previous years, but we have seen a deterioration at this point in time of our general fund, again, year on year. That has a potential estimated operating deficit of 6.658 million as of 30 June 2024, and a deficit at this juncture of 467,000. These numbers have been established during a period of significant work disruption in relation to the finance function. We've had staff exits, and that has meant that we've had a limited capacity to do all necessary reconciliations. So these numbers at this point in time are our best endeavours. We understand the position of council to be difficult at this time in relation to its financial capacity, but we have, I guess as the RAO in this instance, having to accept that responsibility. We have deemed this to be a satisfactory position as a QBRS 2 on the basis that we have sufficient cash to meet our working capital needs, our immediate obligations. That is a position that is necessary. We need to, as an RAO, provide you with a satisfactory or unsatisfactory position on each review. And if it's unsatisfactory, to provide you with immediate remedial action. Based on that, we have sufficient liquidity, and that has been the basis previously, that we have enough cash to meet our bills. Where that cash is actually meant to go is a separate, also legislative requirement that is yet to be fully identified. And if you refer to the reserves and cash statement within the appendices, you may see that we have a dilemma there, but we're yet to fully establish the extent of that dilemma and whether it's real or potentially a matter of timing and some lack of transactional record keeping. But at this time, as of December, the position is that it is satisfactory, but there is a high potential for that to shift going into the third quarterly review. If the transactional environment, the reviews and the reconciliations that are underway currently find that that position is unsatisfactory. And there'll be more briefings for councillors in due course as to the context of that, both in the current fiscal year and in recent fiscal years. The statements as being provided in the appendices hopefully provide you with some comfort in relation to some of those works that have been done. We haven't had enough resourcing to do a substantial review of the operating experience in the current financial year. What we've had to do is match our expenditure to our income flows. It's a very important premise in undertaking our annual budgeting. We need to understand that we're spending the money against the right things. So that exercise was the primary focus. We also did a very extensive review of our capital works program. Our capital works program was one of the most extensive programs, and potentially, I haven't got the history, but I would suggest unprecedented in relation to its level of expenditure, due to many of our funds coming through emergency grants and the like coming to end of their reasonable period to be expended. So effectively, through the infrastructure unit and through external project management support, the team are working quite aggressively to effectively finalise a host of works. Otherwise, then funds would have to be returned to funding bodies. So you still see a capital works program that, if you compare it to historic recent averages, far exceeds anything we have, and undoubtedly that will carry with it a risk. Current best intentions is to spend in the vicinity of $19 million in capital works, and indicatively our average would sit somewhere between 7 and 9 on a consolidated basis annually. So it's an extensive body of work. Infrastructure went through a review process, and obviously the rubber will hit the road, and then we'll see in a couple of months where they stand and review that again. But that obviously would have a reasonable degree of risk, external factors, and the realities of, not everything goes to plan in life. I would refer you, and do make a specific note of the page 85 in the appendices. And this relates back to the item previously mentioned by Councillor in relation to Lewis Crescent. Lewis Crescent is tabled as a motion by Council for the delivery of 2 units for mixed purposes. The nature of the Capital Works Reserve and the release of those funds was necessary to try and remediate some of our levels of commitment that cannot be funded at this time. So the notion that there was monies sitting there to fund this body of work wasn't substantiated, or isn't substantiated by our financial position. And the estimates that came back in relation to doing the works was substantially higher. So it was 30% greater. So through this QBRS 2, one of the areas of improvement in relation to decision making would be to hopefully start to channel key budgetary decisions on a quarterly basis through these. Otherwise, we end up with disparate information pieces. We end up with decisions here and there, and then it's trying to corral those in a coherent manner. So working with the directors, it was the proposition that we bring it through this type of process, give you that information. We can provide you with more detailed reporting, but then obviously that in itself is kind of extensively time consuming. And we would like to have more commentary here and see if we can find a position with council that you feel informed, but we're not necessarily drowning in report writing. We are a small team and we want to make effective decision making and support that. So hopefully we can find the balance.
Can I just interrupt? We do have a resolution on the books for Lewis Crescent.
You do.
So I think we need to resolve that, and a report needs to be brought back one way or the other, sooner rather than later.
And I take your point there, Madam Mayor. The process can obviously allow for that.
Yeah.
It can also allow for the process to be consolidated and have it act underneath this. So it's a preference of council. One of the notes that I have is that we're ending up with disparate information. So it is a risk of how we manage that. But yes, it's wholly at council's preference how you would like that to proceed. So it's enacted in these financial numbers, because otherwise we would bring the paper here, it would miss the QBRS2, it might make the QBRS3, things change again. The dynamic nature of the reports and the ability for the budget to be endorsed, some degree of alignment would be a very healthy future state for council. At the moment, they're not aligned. So the two operate almost in tension of each other. So just bringing that to your attention. But again, it's a preference of council how that will unfold. That's as much commentary as I believe. There are statements there. We have a cash budget position. If you look at our budgeting approach, we do cash budgeting, which I've noted to council in workshops is an old practice. I've used my professional judgment to give you the best of possible accrual basis of financial statements, which has not been possible. So that requires a degree of professional judgment for myself for elements that would be receivables or payables, because otherwise they would just report as cash. So happy to speak to that if you like, but thank you, Madam Mayor, for the opportunity.
Thank you. We'll go around with any questions. No questions? With the recommendation, could I ask the mover and seconder if they're open to adding a third point there, resolution rather than reco, that a report be brought to a future council meeting in the next month or the month after in relation to the Lewis Crescent resolution? I think it's important that the community knows what is going on in relation to that matter. Can I just check the mover and seconder happy with that? That's Councillor Healy, Councillor Stringer.
Yep.
Councillor Hannan.
Just a question. So, in layman's terms, you're saying that the money that was going to be spent out of the economic fund to develop those two blocks is not there? Is that what you're saying?
I can't establish that those funds exist at this time.
Okay.
So I think given this situation, we need to be as transparent as possible, and I'd like to see that in a specific report. So a mover and seconder were happy with that. Any other questions
So
or
just
comments?
on the wording of that, a report be provided to council by the April meeting on the proposed Lewis Crescent housing project.
On the resolution that's in place in relation to Lewis Crescent, whether
Yep.
we rescind it or do whatever we do.
Yep.
So we can, from a governance perspective, have a decision on the record and open to the community.
Which is, it's OCM 03024, if you wanted to note that in there.
I'm aware of it.
Okay. Any other questions? No. All in favour of the recommendation? Thank you. Carried. Get back to 8.9, which is consultation draft amendments to the Code of Meeting Practice. The recommendation is that council, regarding the consultation draft for the revised model Code of Meeting Practice, 1, endorse the submission as amended attached to this report, and 2, direct the CEO to lodge this submission with the Office of Local Government. Do we have a mover?
Yeah.
Councillor Nutikoa, a seconder. Councillor Dennis, any questions or comments? I'd like to thank the Deputy CEO for the work put into that. I know you had to do that at short turnaround. All right, all in favour of the recommendation?
Yep.
Thank you, carried. Right, 8.10, classification of land 12 to 14 Hay Street, Berrigan. The recommendation is that council formally classify lots 19 and 20, section 3 DP 3329, 12 to 14 Hay Street, Berrigan, as operational land for the purposes of section 31 of the Local Government Act 1993. Do we have a mover?
Yep.
Councillor Natakawa, a seconder.
Councillor.
Councillor Brooker. Does the Director of Community and Development wish to add anything in relation to this?
It's actually the office.
Oh,
Okay, so,
This has been a big process.
this has been a bit of a process to acquire this land. We finally have it. It is extremely frustrating that we had to go down this path to actually get a result that was useful for both us and our community. What this is doing, this is very routine. This is just allowing us classify the land as operational so that we can, if we choose, on sell it. We don't have a need for it for our own purposes in terms of community land or open space or anything like that. Having it as operational means that council can sell it for housing, which from a staff perspective we see as its first and best use. The decision to be made by council, and we've already been approached by parties who are aware we own this, is whether we sell it as it is or do we work at dividing it into additional lots and selling it then. There'll be a future report come probably from either myself or the Director of Community and Development on those options.
okay. Thank you. Any questions? Comments? Councillor Natakawa?
It was just if that land does end up being sold to a different party, does that then come back as unrestricted funds into?
So
The
if we
finance?
sell assets, then it'll come back into, for us, for you, as
Yep.
council to spend, it'll come into a general fund and you'll make a decision how that's
Yep.
allocated. It comes as untied funds.
Yep, cool. Thank you. Just wanted to clarify that.
Anything else? Okay. All in favour of the recommendation? Thank you. Carried. 8.11, terms of reference for the CEO Performance Review Panel. The recommendation is that council endorse and adopt the terms of reference for the CEO Performance Review Panel. Do we have a mover?
Yep.
Councillor Natakawa, a seconder. Councillor Payne. Any questions or comments? I will note there's an appendix that's not here, but that's fine. When we publish this, if we could
Yep.
include the appendix. All in favour of the recommendation? Thank you, carried. Uh, 8.12, event funding application for Mild to Wild Rod Run. The recommendation is that council provide $5,510 from council's event funding budget to Mild to Wild Rod and Custom Club to support the Murray River Rod Run 2025, subject to Mild to Wild Rod and Custom Club acknowledging council support in marketing and collateral, as well as during the event. And 2, Mild to Wild Rod and Custom Club acquitting all funds spent in a matter acceptable to council. Do we have a mover? Councillor Stringer, a seconder. Councillor Dennis, any questions or comments? Councillor Payne?
Do we not have spend map data on previous events?
Sorry, we lost half your words there.
Do we have any spend map data on the previous events held by Mile to Wild?
Oh, spend map, sorry, we will do, I don't have it here. I can get Merrin to email that to you guys if you like, the data that shows like, I know last year every shop in the street ran out of food, drinks, everything. So I will assume that we will have pretty good data that shows the effect of that. Yeah.
All accommodation's already booked out.
Yeah, all accommodation is already booked out, so we will have some good spend map data that shows the effect of that particular event on Tocumwal's tourism dollar. Yep.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Natakawa?
Clearly getting a little bit more confident at council meetings to ask all questions. So just wanting to clarify, were we already providing this funding to Mild to Wild anyway, and now we're just sort of allocating where that funding is going, or this is
Okay,
Well, we do have we have a small bucket of money where we allocate some events,
Yep.
some event funding to. It's not very big, let me tell you. But this is one of the ones that we know has a big impact, and we do have an MOU with them where we worked with them to hopefully make it easier for them to run the event. May not have quite worked this year, but teething problems. However, that is, we didn't commit to giving them any money, but because the event is growing quite rapidly, it's probably worth helping them a little bit.
Okay. And just on the funding application, it states that the event is in May and not March. But then the notes say that it's happening in March.
it's certainly happening in March.
It's definitely happening in March. That may just be a typo on some.
Well, it's handwritten on the actual application from Mile to While that it was happening in May,
It
so.
happens on the Victorian Moomba
Long
weekend, whatever
weekend,
that's
yeah.
called.
Okay,
Labor Day.
Labor Day
Labor
weekend.
Day weekend.
Okay, yep, just wanted to.
Councillor
clarify.
Hannan.
Just for clarification around the event funding, they still had to apply for the event funding.
Every
Yeah.
year, yes.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, they
It's not
apply
that
every
done.
year. They don't, we don't just give it to them, no.
No,
They just
correct.
applied this year. I don't think they applied last year. No, they didn't. So they've applied this year, that's all.
And is this their third year of applying?
Third year of running it, but they've not applied before for event funding. It's growing a little bit more, I think, than it's
Entries
bigger than
closed.
they had expected.
Entries closed a month ago.
Yeah, they
It's
had to shut
chockers,
them down,
yeah.
yeah.
I think we might have funded it in the
Yeah, I think
past.
we've funded them before.
Oh, have you?
I
Okay.
think, I reckon at least twice.
I don't think
Yeah.
we've, okay,
Right.
2 years ago, not last year.
Okay.
It may be worthwhile circulating to councillors the guidelines we use to.
Yeah,
That would be helpful.
yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
The guidelines for event funding.
All right, all in favour of that recommendation? Okay, thank you, carried. 8.13, we have the Tocumwal and Barooga flood study. The recommendation is that council adopt the Tocumwal Barooga flood study attached to this report. Can we have a mover? We do. Councillor Stringer, a seconder. Councillor Natakawa. Any questions or comments?
This has been the bane of my existence. But I am so glad that it's to this point. Honestly, this has been a Herculean effort to get it here. We've had no end of trouble finalising it, and I'm really grateful for the community's input. There was significant input. They were really interested, for obvious reasons. But it's been quite a back of house Herculean effort to get it to this point. So. And that's really important because we need to have this in by the 28th of Feb so that we can get the next round of funding that is the implementation stuff. So that we got to do the risk planning, which will help people hopefully with their insurances and things like that. So this is the next part.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments? No? Okay, all in favour of the recommendation? Okay, thank you, carried. We don't have an 8.14 in the agenda
8.14 was
moved.
moved.
So we're at 8.15, which is policy, grants and works, community facilities. And the recommendation is that council adopt the version 2.0 of the grant and works community facilities policy. Do we have a mover?
Yep.
Councillor Natakawa, a seconder. Don't all rush. Councillor Hannan, any questions or comments? No. All in favour of the amendment? Thank you, carried. We're at 8.16. We have a planning proposal, 2024-9891 Bruton Street, Tocumwal. And we have a recommendation that council support the recommendation and submit the planning proposal to the Department of Planning and Environment for finalisation. Do we have a mover? Councillor Natakawa, a seconder. Councillor Payne. Okay, so am I correct, Director Community and Development? This time, would you like to say some words before we go to questions?
So there's been a bit of history attached to this one. Previously, they did lodge a planning proposal for a similar outcome. but in essence, the department knocked it back because they didn't really have the strategic support. The strategic support's now offered through the strategic framework and land use plans framework. But basically, that's the forerunner for us to do our LEP amendment. So this is consistent with that document. We've previously been to council to sort of support the planning proposal to even get to this point. We've been to the department. The department have given us the process of what we need to do in regards to notification. The notifications occurred to the local community, and obviously we have received some submissions. This report goes through those submissions and then provides a response, an officer's response in relation to those submissions, but recommends that the planning proposal be supported and be submitted to the department for approval.
Questions?
One is, thank you for the background information. That actually helped when trying to decipher all of this. And just noting that the names on the submissions haven't been redacted correctly. And on the responses to submissions, they're actually all listed there as well.
So under the requirements of the Act, that information's public, so they don't get redacted. So you actually, once you make a submission to a planning proposal or a development application,
Okay.
that information is available.
Yeah, it was like, it was blacked out, but you could still
If
read
people
what
go
it
onto
was.
the planning portal,
Yeah.
it's all there.
It's all there.
Okay.
There's also
That
a
was my
statement
only-
on both council's website and the planning proposal that basically says if you make a submission, that
public.
information would become public.
But, okay, what's happened?
Yeah.
Yes, no, they shouldn't.
So,
Just with the, sorry if I could, just with the minimum lot size of 450 square metres, is that in line with the recent developments in and around that Tokemall's precinct?
No, but that is the recommendation under our strategic strategy that we went with 450, so that's the size that council said is the minimum for the last 2 years. Be mindful that everybody looks at that size, but it is a minimum. The market somewhat will still determine what is an appropriate lot size. So developers aren't stupid and just go, I'll do 450. They'll go, well, wait on in Toke, a larger lot at maybe 700, 800, we know is what the market's asking for, and that's what they provide. So you will even note that although this planning proposal really changes the zoning, they have given us an indicative plan illustrating the subdivision of what would occur, and those lots aren't at 450.
Yeah, I think some of the concerns in the community are the minimum lot size being the lot size.
Yeah.
And therefore respective of the pressures and the density of the development itself. Yeah, I think if we can communicate those messages wider and better at times, I think it's probably, you know, it takes a bit of pressure off some of the considerations from some of the community members that, you know, that the community's going to grow by 800 people in X amount of time.
yeah, and that was certainly what was raised last night at the listening post.
Through you, I don't think the actual planning proposal process actually assists the community in understanding, because all you're really doing now is changing zoning. The actual, if this continues and it's actually gazetted, then there's a development application comes in that actually shows the subdivision and the lot sizes. I think people get confused with
the
not
two
understanding those two processes.
Yeah.
But certainly if a development application came in at 450, I don't think not only would the community raise concerns, the department would raise concerns as soon as the application's received anyway.
So we do get another stab at considering these particular lot
when
in
the develop-
relation to development applications in the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's important. The system is quite opaque. And that's a state government. We're complying with the
And
requirements.
Just through you, Mayor, if I could, and I don't know whether or not it's a path that we should or even explore, but it would be probably helpful with the projection of development applications that we may well understand that are coming towards Barooga and Tokemall, that there would be some sort of communique, whether in what form, shape, or I don't know, but to explain to residents of what the potential are and to allay some of those fears of the influx that they think may well happen through the smaller lot sizes that is the number one concern, I think it is.
Yeah, and well, I think the number one thing that people came out with was, oh, but our health services are inadequate anyway. The fact is we're not going to get better health services if we don't have more people. We need more people to get better health services. I don't like the argument, but unfortunately that's the fact. And we will ultimately get better service.
We don't necessarily need smaller blocks of land to get more people though.
No.
And 450 square metres, that's not even a tennis court. That's small.
So just to add something in there, when you actually read the strategy that council prepared though to support its own LEP, it basically said that when we look at our demographics and we look at the house sizes, the two don't marry up. So we have an ageing demographic, but our predominant house size was either 3 or 4 bedrooms. You've got to be mindful that if you are encouraging smaller lots, when you look at development applications, there's these whole provisions that you have to assess things like site coverage, like amount of open space, like parking, like setbacks, that all actually dictate that even if you did do a 450 square metre lot, the high probability is you're only going to have a 2-bedroom style dwelling on there, which is actually consistent with what our strategy says we need within these ageing population towns. So the two sort of do align. I think we need to be mindful that as a council, we shouldn't necessarily just say, well, 450 is wrong. We need to be mindful of what the development proposed on it is and if that's actually satisfying the demand and need.
And affordable housing is the other part of that discussion, is, you know we don't have enough, and that a 2-bedroom house may be more affordable for a young couple than 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, that's the reality of the world.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so we need a division here. So we've got the recommendation. So those in favour, can I get you to put your hands up, please? Yep. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, and those against. We got that noted? Thank you. Eight 17. Planning proposal Berrigan LEP review. The recommendation is that council support the recommendation and submit the planning proposal to the Department of Planning and Environment for gateway determination. Do we have a mover?
Yep.
Councillor Natikoa, a seconder. Seconder. Councillor Hannan. Okay, any questions or comments? Did you want to introduce this one also, Director Community and Development?
So this is an extension of the last conversation, and this is actually council initiating its own planning proposal to introduce changes to our local environmental plan, our LEP. So in effect, this would change zones and minimum lot size maps and some other minor tweaks that we're seeking to do in and around all of our shire, and really bring in the strategy that's previously been adopted by council as part of it.
Any questions or comments?
Just one. How does, I was looking over that, and how does the reducing the minimum lot size impact the houses that are already there? Because, I know for myself, I'm currently on a 1,200 square metre lot, and now looking at that, it's now breaking it down to 450 metres, and there's more of them, sort of thing. But does that actually overlay current housing, or is it more, because obviously it's changing that whole demographic?
So the way the LEP is done is you basically have separate maps. So you have a separate zoning map, and then you would have a separate lot size map. So it won't change anybody's existing provisions. However, if somebody had a lot of over 900 square metres and wanted to apply for subdivision,
Yep.
they now could lodge an application
Okay.
if the LEP was successful.
Yep, okay.
Under the current provisions, you need 600 square metre minimum lot
Right.
sizes.
Yep.
It is encouraging to some extent some infill development, which is
Yep.
probably, given we have state significant ag land right up to the boundaries of every community, is probably the only way we can go in a lot of those areas. And it's probably something we should be encouraging in some of the older areas.
Thank you.
Yeah, is that right?
Yes, and there's also obviously transitions that
Yeah.
now we're seeking to implement. So you would have smaller lots in the residential, because we're changing from R5 to residential to R1. Then you would have a transition out to the sort of R5, which is your larger lots. And then ultimately you'd get into your farming, your agricultural zones. The intent of what we're trying to do here is provide that transition. By having larger lots on the periphery of town, hopefully you reduce the amenity impact from agriculture to residential, but also don't jeopardise, if you wanted to change that zoning in future, that it could be redeveloped again.
Any other questions or comments? No? Okay, all in favour of the recommendation? Okay, thank you, carried.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Is that
there's
a division?
Yeah, we do need a division on that one. Yep,
Do
it's
we?
a planning one,
Oh, it's
yep.
not in here. Okay, we'll start that again. So all in favour, hands up high, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and against? Thank you, we've got that.
This is page 81.
Yep,
Yep, there's a division right at the.
right at the bottom.
It's just in a,
It's in a weird place.
well, yeah, I think it's just the formatting as it's come through hasn't
It's
made
just
it
across the
obvious.
page.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. We're at 8:18, the sustainability report.
I did get it there, woohoo.
The recommendation is that council acknowledge the preliminary draft of the sustainability report and request the CEO to create a schedule through the Council of Professional Development sessions to discuss and understand each chapter and to provide feedback and consider the relevant recommendations. Do we have a mover? Councillor Dennis, a seconder. Councillor Natakawa. Any questions or comments? I do have some feedback in that I think that the recommendations need to be restructured more as actual actions, a snappy 1 or 2 sentence of actions, which may mean there need to be more recommendations, and that the words that are there are more like descriptors or justification. And I think that the recommendations would be useful to have them either a traffic light or something that indicates prioritisation or urgency, depending on the nature of the recommendation.
Perfect.
So,
As I was writing them, as I was thinking them, it's.
and I think that those recommendations, those snappy sentences and their priority should be a standalone document that we can work through. So, I mean, that's my top. I haven't yet gone through with a microscope. I will at some point, but that's the high-level feedback I have. Does
Yeah, it's a very big document.
anyone
so-
else have some high-level feedback?
Just that it was awesome to read. I was going to say, well done.
Well Yeah. done.
Yeah. There's a lot
I
of
can't
work
tell you
in
what a
there.
relief
Well
it was
done.
to push send.
Well done.
Yep, big job, and thank you for inputting all that work into it.
It is meant to be, once it's past preliminary draft and we're happy with its form and that if we get a piece of a new asset, that should go in. If we sell off an asset, that should come out. It is meant to be a living document to some extent, because it's one way that we can keep a track of what we have, its value, how we're looking after things. It's part of those project and asset governance things that we haven't really had in place before. So I think it is a big job, and it'll also form the basis of some really important discussions we need to have quite soon. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So all in favour of the recommendation? Okay, thank you, carried. We're up to item 9, which is notices of motion and questions with notice, and we don't have any. We will move into closed council, but we will also have a break during the next little while. So if I could get someone to move us into closed council. Councillor Payne, seconded Councillor Natakawa. All in favour?
Yep.
So we will consider our confidential matters and have a 15-minute break. And Okay, we've just come out of closed council and we dealt with item 10.1, Berrigan Caravan Park lease. That was a matter that is commercial in confidence. Item 10.2, which was a tender relating to Haynes Court Tokemore. The resolution is that council award the tender submitted by Crawford Civil Proprietary Limited for contract T10 2425 Haynes Court Tokemore pavement and drainage repairs and resurfacing for the contract value of $140,800.91, excluding GST, subject to the CEO reviewing the scope and negotiation with the preferred supplier if any changes are required. Authorise its sale to be affixed to relevant contracts in the presence of two signatories authorised to affix the sale pursuant to Regulation 400 of the Local Government General Regulation 2021. 3, appoint Michael Eddy as the contract authorised person. And 4, authorise the authorised person to approve variations in the contract up to a maximum value of 10% of the contract. Item 10.3, which is TO7 2425 Alexander Avenue, Berrigan. The resolution is that council award the tender submitted by O'Loughlin Excavation Proprietary Limited for contract TO7 2425 Alexander Avenue, Berrigan, pavement repairs, drainage repairs for the contract value of $264,254.15, excluding GST. Authorise its sale to be affixed to the relevant contracts in the presence of two signatories authorised to affix the sale pursuant to the Regulation 400 of the Local Government General Regulation 2021. Appoint Michael Eddy as the contract authorised person and authorise the authorised person to approve variations on the contract up to a maximum value of 10% of the contract value. And item 10.4, T11 2425 National Memorial Creek Walk Bridge Replacement. The recommendation is that council award the tender submitted by Central Industries Proprietary Limited for contract T11 2425 Tokemore WAF Creek Walk, replacement of pedestrian bridges for the contract value of $250,318.80, excluding GST, subject to the CEO reviewing the scope and negotiation with the preferred supplier if any changes are required. Authorise its sale to be affixed to the relevant contracts in the presence of two signatories authorised to affix the sale pursuant to Regulation 400 of the Local Government General Regulation 2021. 3, appoint Michael Eddy as the contract authorised person. And 4, authorise the authorised person to approve variations on the contract up to a maximum value of 10% of the contract sum. All right, we're up to item 11. Do we have any motions without notice or questions without notice? Councillor Natikoa?
Just in relation to the Finley outside water, it's still very cloudy, and just wondering what the ongoing plans are. Obviously, Matt had reached out around Christmas time, and we were advised about the turbidity of the lake and the high usage and everything like that. But this is now sort of going on an extra month or so, and the water is still very cloudy and unusable outside kind of thing.
Yeah, at the moment, we're looking to lift the levels back up on the lake. So we're going to Murray Irrigation and looking to get 4 megalitres extra a day to get those levels back up again. And then we've got probably the water intake project that's out for tender at the moment, and that will hope to reduce the turbidity from the channel towards the water treatment plant. But then we're still going to come up with a plan around the turbidity in the lake itself, because over time the silt build up, the boats and all that sort of stuff, and the fish have added to the turbidity. So, and you probably noticed, like in probably the Drury Shire, when they had to clean their lake out, that was probably a 2 to 3 year process of draining out and cleaning certain parts. So we have to factor all that in. So
We did speak with Crown Lands yesterday about the silting in the lake and the weeds and the carp, and they've undertaken to help us work out a process too, haven't they? So
What they have suggested that we may be able to work with them to see if we can put together a proposal. So it was all very vague, but there is lots of endeavours and aim. But the idea is to try and look to see what we can do to try and do some environmental works in there, including desilting, weed management. But again, it'll be inside the funding pot that they've got, and they've told us that's
And just remembering that the service level that is agreed for water is only for potable water. There's no guarantees for the raw water outside. I know people are used to it being a lot better than it is.
Yeah.
It just isn't at the moment.
If I could, I've had many comments around the quality of the water and the effects it's having on potential pets and actual trees and gardens that people are watering, that they believe that it may well be killing the gardens and watering. So whilst it's not the responsibility, it's been an ongoing expectation, and we need to just deliver that message a bit better then, so that the residents actually understand that it's safe for a start, because that is one of the biggest
It's just
concerns.
dirty water, yeah.
Pardon?
It's just a bit dirty water.
No,
It's-
no.
yeah.
And obviously that has like individually a flow-on effect to the water rates and stuff, so I would expect some noise, I guess, about the Finley water rates that have just been issued this week. And the only other one I had was just the posts on the community pages on Facebook and things like that. Do they get monitored, or is it on the onus of the council that if we see something, like I'm very hesitant to engage and say anything, but some things need to be addressed.
We have our comms person who, and sometimes Bianca does it as well, who is often on after hours and weekends and stuff like that, and will post up stuff.
Yeah.
If you want to do something, please put it past Keels first if
Yeah.
you can.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Sorry, can I just clarify through you, CEO and Mayor? Are you talking about comments on council's own page?
No,
So we
just,
monitor on our own page, but
Yeah.
obviously only during work hours.
Yeah,
On
yeah,
community
community
forums, no,
forums.
we do not. We don't have the resources.
yeah, no,
We
and
don't
I
have the
just
staff
wanted to
resources to
check,
do it.
because it's more around the commentary around the water pressure in Toke or things like that. I just wanted
The
to
best thing
kind of
that
get
we
a
can
gauge.
do, and we do not participate as a council on them at all unless it's something very strange.
Yep.
Is, again, if people have got a concern, they can talk amongst themselves, but the best way to get anything done, and the messaging that we should be putting out as a team, is if you want something done, rather than put it on a community forum page, talk to us directly,
Yeah.
and that way we can give them an answer.
Yeah, cool. I just wanted just the clarity around that.
Yeah.
Yep.
No,
Thank you.
We don't have the capacity. I'm not sure it'd be necessarily helpful for us.
Absolutely
to weigh in.
not. So, yeah, thank you. I just needed that clarity.
Any other questions without notice or motions without notice?
Sorry.
I do have one. It was raised yesterday and it seems to be a good idea. In relation to the Toke consultation on the concept plans, are we planning to have a public meeting? We did have a listening post. That wasn't the purpose of the listening post, though it was a key feature.
What's, in terms of a public meeting, what would be the outcomes that you as council be looking for from it?
To collect more of people's feedback who don't want to put pen to paper. I suspect there are a few. We did it with other things.
So Keels is there. We did a community engagement plan. Yeah.
There's not a public meeting specified in the engagement plan. The idea is if members of the community wish to have their thoughts, feelings, concerns, what they like heard and actually collected, the best way they can do that is by either submitting online, writing something down on an actual piece of paper and handing that in. Often we find that is the best way of actually getting useful, fruitful information rather than just word of mouth. In this instance, it would be my suggestion, if you did feel strongly about a community meeting, that it is just for those who have actually made a formal submission. If you wanted more clarity around, what something meant, or if you need a little bit more information, if it wasn't quite clear, I think if people are taking the time to actually make a formal submission, then yes. If they're just commenting on social media pages and things like that, I think probably not. I have been jumping on. Yeah, I have been jumping on the socials and saying, thanks for these comments. Please ensure that you're following the appropriate channels, even with the listening post. I think it was the Tokemore Community Forum had shared our post. So then I responded back, hey guys, this is great, but please ensure that you are either coming into council office or seeing the library and capturing your information correctly. Otherwise, it's very hard for us to
sort through the
I
noise.
did reiterate numerous times to put it in writing yesterday. But still, I think people may wish to be heard. What do our Tocumwal
I think we
Let's
should
think.
do it.
think we should?
I think we should do it, yeah.
Yeah.
Have a public meeting in the town hall. Blast it out there and get them all there, because, yes, we had 40 people there yesterday. Yes, we had 40 people.
But we didn't publish it till Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think a night there and we won't take their feedback there. We'll explain to them how to do their feedback so that it comes through the right channels.
So it's a discussion.
Yeah, just a discussion.
Sorry,
No, go for it.
Councillor, I think they need to understand the process of it
Yeah.
a bit better, because at the end of the day, they will provide feedback to the community. At the end of the day, we will make the decision,
Yeah.
taking their
getting really good
feedback into
engagement.
consideration.
They're
So
doing
I think that clearly, because I just listening in the last hour yesterday, I think
Yeah.
there's some expectation that
Yeah.
that they're going to, that they're going to get what they believe they're going to get, understanding that that's not how council delivers the project. The council has to make the decision on the basis of the feedback provided.
Yeah, but it's based on the feedback from the residents.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's right.
This is still a concept plan. We're actually
Yeah, of
asking,
course.
all we've done is given them some information that says, do you like any of this? If you've got different ideas, give them to us as well, because you need to start with something.
And that's, and I
It's
said
not
that,
committee or council,
That's
Yeah,
not a
binding
project
council
yet.
to deliver X. It's okay, the idea of the concept plan is literally, okay, so here's an idea what it could look like. So when council does put specific projects forward to say, okay, we do want to do the car park component next door, we do want to do some of this works on Baruga Street, we've got the overall concept plan that's gone to the community, and we try and do something that's in sympathy and achieving the same aims as that. I think we need to be clear to the community, this is not going to be something that says, council's doing this, that's it, that's your say.
no, and we were yesterday, we were
Yeah.
over and over. But everyone was there go ahead.
Sorry, just in regards to the idea of having a community meeting and then saying, can you put this in writing? I find that that's quite frustrating for community members, and we had a listening post where it was, we can log some of this in the portal, and they had a very respectful response, but we reflected it's a bit frustrating, hey, and they're like, it is really frustrating because, so if we're having a conversation but then saying to them, now go off and put that on the system, I don't know that that's going to be particularly positive for council community engagement. My only other thought was with regards to our library in Toke, is that that's got the plans there, and is there a process that people that perhaps have literacy challenges, isn't the right way to say it, but I think we understand what I'm saying,
Yeah.
that the librarian would
Right,
help
right
with
at
that.
the-
Yeah, great, that's already there.
Yeah.
So the Tocumwal librarian officer, Gretchen, she is fully across it. Bianca spent the morning, down there with her yesterday. We have printouts, and the idea is that those community members that may have literacy problems can go in, they can view the plans, and then Gretchen can actually write their feedback as they go along, and then it still gets submitted in that formal manner, so then we can accurately capture their information.
Right, and not just literacy needs, but people that speak out their thoughts, like they can't
Yeah.
get them down to the paper, but also I think just with that, coming back to being really clear what the Deputy CEO was saying regarding this is the concept and this isn't an actual plan for the community, and I think that that's maybe some of the language we really need to communicate, whether it is in a public forum or whether it is just through our socials, which so far there's been some really good messaging put out there regarding that.
The messages, I think we've been very clear this time.
Yeah.
This concept, please tell us
Yeah,
what you
that's
like,
right.
what you don't like.
Yeah, which has been really good to see, and there's been some good engagement through conversations that I've had too around that, so it's good.
I still had to explain it several
There's
times.
still some,
Councillor Dennis, I'll come back to you.
Very right in saying that Tocumwal are very invested in this and very interested and very engaged.
Yeah.
To have probably a collated response of things that people have put forward prior to actually going out to any public forum, so that there's a show that it is a continuum, that people have been heard, and that there is a significant agreement or any final comments would be beneficial.
In the engagement plan, there is a what we heard part where we would collate all that information to present, because it helps us then change the concept plan to a point
To a
where,
thing.
to a thing, yeah.
Yeah, councillor Stringer?
Yeah, we just, I think it's a good idea because the people of Tocumwal don't trust council. They, it all boils back to the building on the corner, because there was a majority didn't want it, but they felt they didn't get a say in it, and it happened anyway. So we have to get over that hump, and I think the more we talk to them and explain to them, and even if we did have a meeting in the public hall, we could take their recommendations and put them into writing for them.
My feeling on balance is that we should have a meeting, that we should put ourselves out there, we should let people see us and understand, as you're saying, what it is we're doing, why we're doing it, explaining it. I think we can say, look, we're taking notes today, but if you want to put your name to what you're proposing, what we need from you is to jot it down on this piece of paper, or let us help you do that, or submit it this way, which is basically what we said yesterday.
Yeah.
And just keep reiterating that, but I think we need to be seen.
Yeah.
I think that's important, that's my view.
So, through the mayor, is a public meeting the best way to do that? It would be better off, would we not be better off potentially, and it's just an option, to do a pop-up in town? My concern with the meeting is you tend, and with all respect to those who attend meetings, you do tend to get, you do tend to hear the loudest voices a lot unless you've got a really good facilitator. So again, maybe a pop-up on site or a pop-up outside the VIC. In the evening, in the afternoon. We did that with the community strategic plan.
And the flood.
And we have somebody, and as they come and talk to us, with the community strategic plan, we sat there and he wrote it down as they...
And confirmed with them that that's what they said. And same with the flood study, we did the same sorts of things, so.
That's just my thoughts.
Whatever shape or form, I believe we're missing a demographic of the Tocumwal community that aren't having a voice at all. We probably need to, if you're going to do something like a pop-up, in front of the IGA is probably not the best place. I've done a fair few pop-ups in the last couple of years. But definitely going to the football and netball clubs, training, when the parents have got some free time to be able to have that conversation. No disrespect, but there was one person in the room that was under 50 years of age yesterday. And I just think we're missing a pocket of the community. And it was made comment by one of the people. 90% of us in this room are going to be in a box in 10 years' time. So that you know what I mean? I think if we're going to engage, we need to make sure that we're getting at least a better spectrum than we're getting at the moment. Because it could possibly have a public meeting and the same 40 people turn up.
Yeah.
So, point taken, Councillor Hannon. One of the things that worked well again with our community strategic plan consultation is we made, Keelan came up with the idea of there's little point us sitting outside the IGA and waiting for people to come to us. We need to go to where the people are. So we went to the street stall here at the Christmas street stall here at Berrigan. We went to the Toke markets, etc. So again, if we're going to run pop-ups, and my view is I think a pop-up is more likely to get a broad spread of people than a meeting where I think you will get the same people who turned up. If we're going to do that, then yes, we need to target places to go where we're likely to get a broad spectrum of views, taking on board footy training and all that. In terms of the golf club, I don't know. There's a bunch of places that we could do it and think about it. At the moment, council, there's a couple of things. One, council has allocated $1,500 for consultation on this project.
Yep.
We've already spent nearly all of that just on the stuff that we're doing now. In terms of staff resourcing, we can certainly send people there to do it, and that's fine. What role do you as elected members want to have in pop-up stalls? We can put something together and circulate that to councils over the next little while. I'm just not sure I'm at a stage today to tell you what we can and can't do.
So obviously the next council meeting is after the close of
Absolutely.
consultation. So perhaps if out of session, if you could circulate, I think do I move that we have some pop-ups of some form?
Yeah.
And today, if I move that, would you like to second that, Councillor Stringer?
Yep.
And then are we all in favour of that?
Yeah.
And then, you send us a proposal and we'll work it out. I'm sure many of us would like to be involved as time permits.
And as it was mentioned, like you've got the mild to wild, where you've got a tote market on at the same time, would probably be a very opportune moment.
Remembering with
And then if, you know, you've
staff
got,
resourcing will be, the staff.
It
but
might
then
be
if you've
that
got
we need to do
councillors,
it.
yeah.
Councillor
There
Hannah?
may well be a swimming carnival in Tocumwal in the next week or two as well, and that's during working hours, so therefore, I think that
There was one last week.
was there in Toke.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, we missed that.
Might have missed it. Anyway,
So-
come back with a plan.
So has there been, look, the resolution on the table now, sorry, just to clarify, Mayor, so that,
Is to come up with a plan for in-person pop-ups relating to the town concept plan
okay,
consultation
so
and
that
circulate
the
out a session.
council will conduct pop-up sessions to communicate the future Tocumwal plans
Yep,
with a proposal to be circulated to councillors.
yeah, with a further budget, let's say another 1,500.
Mhm.
We happy with that?
Yeah, well, they're not paying me any of that, and I'm going.
No,
We-
but
and we'll
if,
try and
if
minimise
it's,
it.
if it's football, carnival, or anything like that, it's out of hours, so it's overtime for our staff. yeah, so-
From memory, I think we haven't missed one of their swimming carnivals is tomorrow. I don't know whether there's any way that, it's very last minute, but there's going to be
I don't know.
the
because
bigger of the schools is going to be there
At
for the
Toke?
day, just as
Is
an
that in
FYI. Public, yeah.
Well,
I'm
Able-
just say I'm 97% sure. There's 3% that I'm wrong, but I'm 97% sure they're
That there's
on
a-
time.
an opportunity.
But there's a
Okay.
carnival tomorrow.
Toke Public, I'm pretty sure.
We will-
Alright, we'll
we
work
shall
that
do our
out.
I know
best,
St Joey's is
councillors.
tomorrow.
All right,
Yeah.
sorry for throwing a cat among the pigeons. Yep, sorry, go
Has that
ahead.
been voted on?
Yeah, it was.
I missed it, Sorry.
Minute, I'll ring the principal.
I was just going to text our
We're all in
lifeguard
favour,
and
we
say,
can
is
vote
it
again?
tomorrow?
Yep. Any other motions without notice, questions without notice?
I had one, but I'm just ringing the principal of Toke.
Okay,
We-
Probably.
can we come back to that?
Well, you're just about the end of your meeting, Count.
Yeah,
Oh, no, you've got your,
I will do the mayor's report. Thank you. So at item 12.1, so 23rd of January, I met with a researcher from ANU. 26th of January, we had Australia Day in Baruga. That was a great event. Thank you to those who organised that. And a biggish crowd, given that it was a long weekend, so that was good. Well done to all the winners. 30 January, we met with the RDA Murray CEO and departing chair. It's a new CEO there. Sounds that they are looking to have more impact in this area. We seem to sometimes drop off.
Friday.
But that,
He's the new, oh, sorry,
Samira,
that's
yeah.
right, Samira, sorry.
Yeah.
wrong, yeah.
31st of January, we met with the new MDBA person allocated to this region. I insisted it was online because didn't want us to waste our lives. It appears that the MDBA has not had a person allocated to this region for, I believe it was 18 months to 2 years, which I couldn't help myself.
I know, we both were like, yeah.
I did say obviously that was not his fault, but if you could please feed back to management that that was highly inappropriate. He will come back at some point in the future. We can determine at that time whether it's a good use of our time or not.
He has done some work with us regards, he's those engaged with the Murray Regional Tourism Board, regards the events and flooding events that they have done, you know, how they've had rivers at high levels across the region, and so they're working with the Murray Regional Tourism Board to ensure that all the events are on their radar.
Yep.
So that's one thing that he has done that I am a little grateful for.
Yep. I did miss on the 30th of January the TPS Murray Golf Luncheon at Baruga. I met the new MLC member, Nicole Overall. We're now besties. So that good contacts, it's a really good place to go to. Good contacts. Dylan Alcott was fantastic. I know a number of you also went, so that was good. 5th of February, Murrumbidgee Local Health District gave their quarterly briefing to CEOs and mayors, of course on 24 hours notice. And they do like to talk to us about Finley Hospital, and it's great. You know, they've got the new accommodation there and they're moving on. As we know, we've already been briefed. And they are looking, which I mentioned to everybody the other week, to purchase accommodation for families who might be moving to areas. We had our professional development, 5th of February, we were all there. 6th of February, we had the Ramjo Water Committee online. 7th of February, we had the Ramjo meeting also online. There's no significant matters to report out of those. There may be a motion coming. Can you think of anything I might need to report from Ramjo? Deputy CEO? I don't think so. There was nothing.
No, nothing.
10th of February, we met in Tocumwal with Councillor Stringer and Councillor Dennis. We met with Ross Bodie and with the Deputy CEO in relation to potential foreshore projects, which we might be seeing later in the year, funded by the Foreshore Committee as proposals. And we did suggest that they were things that they should be speaking to the community about and whether they favoured them or not. 11th of February, I had Barooga Advancement Group. And then last night we had the listening post in Tocumwal. As we've mentioned, we had 40 people attend. One of the things I did say to everyone in Tocumwal at the beginning is that Tocumwal always has a large number of attendees. It's good that people are engaged with the community and want to put their time into giving their feedback, and that, you know, we do appreciate that. But we did take the opportunity, as I have in the Mayor's message for this month, to remind people that they don't need to wait for listening posts to reach out to us. So that's my group of meetings and my report. Do we have a mover for that? Councillor Natikoa, second to Councillor Dennis. All in favour of accepting that report? Thank you. All right, verbal reports from delegates. Perhaps before we do that, we have a question without notice from Councillor Stringer.
The swimming carnival's Friday, 9 till 2:30 at Tocumwal. So, if we can go along. The question without notice was, I actually, for the first time, I'm a bad person. I've never been through the creek walk until Monday morning. I could see what they were talking about the weed problem and everything else, but what stood out to me was the fire hazard. There is so much undergrowth on the ground, and that if some idiot threw anything in there, the whole lot would be gone. I don't know whether we can talk to Rotary about cleaning up or get some community groups involved in it and raking it up, but yeah, it's pretty thick in there at the moment. Yeah.
Andrew, did you want to respond to at least the weed part? Yeah.
So council has two parts of management attached to it. Although we call it a creek, we do need to be mindful it's for stormwater. So that is its primary function.
Yeah, I thought that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Council every couple of years will actually go through and actually grade it out.
Yeah.
Roughly in relation to stormwater to ensure that the flows work in the right way, because obviously the build-up of silt and everything else affects where those flows go. In regards to weed management, council basically has it within their plan that they go through there and they do numerous things. So we'll spray for your box fauna and those sort of things. We also have sounds like a Word document, a cut and paste scheme. So depending on the type of species, we actually literally cut and then put on the treatment to remove them. But we actually don't do anything within the water environment, because although there's kabungi and things like that, they actually are beneficial for the fauna. So it's that balancing act that we haven't actually got to, where if you were going to grade it out and you were going to re-establish it at that point in time, then you would put a different species within it.
Yeah.
But council does look at it. The other thing we need to be mindful of is that council will have an attached service level for all of these open spaces. So within that, the service level that officers use basically determines it's sort of an unmanaged creek environment. So they might go through there maybe once a year or so to actually do a bit of slashing. But other than that, they leave it to be a
natural habitat.
A natural type environment. So it's a balancing act, but ultimately it is on the maintenance regime.
That was just the first thing that hit me in the eyes when I walked in from the golf course end was, oh, well, this is a fire asking to happen. Yeah.
Can you maybe take on notice and let Councillor Stringer know when it's next due?
The slashing?
Yeah.
Yes, Gary can.
Excellent. Anything else?
No, that was it.
Did you want to do your verbal report while we're here? Anything to report?
I don't have a lot because we had the meeting last night. Well, I'll start with the Barooga one. I went to the Barooga one with Councillor Brooker, and she answered 99% of the questions and answered them really well. And I just sat there. We had one old gentleman come along, showed us his rate notice, and said he was there to thank us for what we were doing, and then got up and left again.
That's very nice.
Yeah, that was good. And had another gentleman that wanted to hit me with his walking stick and have a fight because I wouldn't alter the temperature of the swimming pool over there. I tried to explain to him that we don't own the swimming pool, but he wouldn't have it, and that they need to get rid of the kids' pool and get rid of the button on the spa, because when he does get into the spa, because he's cold when he gets out of the pool, somebody turns the bubbles on and that makes his bones ache. And I tried for 10 minutes, and in the end I said to him, look, send me an email and I'll pass it on to the
people who do look after the pool.
people who do look after it. Yeah. So that was my my part with Barooga.
Yep.
I thought last night was really well. Plenty of the same faces that turn up, and a few new faces. And by the end of the night, I think they understood that it's just a concept. If you don't like it, say so.
Tell us specifically what you don't like.
Yeah, which part of it you don't like, and it seems that the main part of it that they want is Barooga Street fixed, and I can understand why. But we'll see what happens after that. I don't think I've got anything else. There.
You're meeting with Rotary?
Oh, yes, sorry. Yeah, I forgot all about that. I had a meeting with, I got invited to Rotary, Sharon, and I got invited to Rotary on Monday night?
Tuesday night. Tuesday.
Sorry?
Sometime.
It was after the burying and the
Yeah,
sand.
last week
Tuesday.
anyway.
Tuesday.
And we had discussions with them about the op shop and everything else. And I know we've tried to be diplomatic all along, and it just wasn't getting anywhere with certain members. So I sort of just went in there plain and said, well, this is the way it is. You know, you're safe for 3 years. You could be safe for up to 10 years. The council will always assist in looking after you. You've had free rent for 4 years. What are you going to give us back? So they've decided that, yes, they could afford, I think they said 40,000 on the night, but then last night the president said to me up to 60,000. So, and they're quite happy to give it a coat of paint, clean it up, replace the weatherboards on the side that are rotten, and put a new veranda on it in the meantime to bring it up so it's not such an eyesore in the town. And they've withdrawn the petition that they had in every shop in town that, you know, Shire's out to get them, and so they've agreed to withdraw that as well, and happy to play along with us and
Part of the
see where
solution.
it goes. Yeah, so that was quite successful, I thought. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you. Councillor Healy?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I attended the WebEx Golf Luncheon as well, which was actually quite informative. Whilst it was good to hear from Dylan Alcott, there was some really informative presentations provided there, and some connections to build, which was nice to be a part of that event. I attended the Finley Showgrounds meeting, and again, some really positive conversations around the partnerships with council and some plans that they've got for the area, for the showground space. They've got it's quite a well-utilised grounds. They've got their tractor pull coming up this weekend, and then they've also got some dog trials and a rodeo coming up in the coming months. So there's a lot of planning. Oh, and a pony club event. So I'm a bit out of that, but that was some really good conversations there in support of the council, and appreciate the support that the council gives them. And then I attended the listening post in Finley and Berrigan last week. Wednesday? Tuesday. I feel like I was working that day that it wasn't Tuesday. It was Wednesday. Yeah, thank you. And again, like there was a particular, I'd say that it's good for engaging a particular demographic within our community. Whilst we did talk to some younger people that were working at one of the locations to get feedback, I think part of our role will be actually utilising our networks and the places that we go to get some feedback on how people feel. And something that it reminded me of from our conversations today is that idea of the concept plan, because I know that certainly here in Berrigan, there's a real appreciation for the concept plan and a desire to really have council come back to that in planning for projects in the future as well, which was, conversations were quite, I think, positive. Yeah. That's it. Thank you.
Councillor Brooker?
I had the pleasure of speaking at Australia Day and put me well and truly outside my comfort zone. Thank you very much.
Well.
Yeah, you did very well.
Great job.
I attended the Barooga Rec Reserve meeting, the WebEx luncheon, bag meeting, the Barooga listening post, which I would say we had about, it would have been close to 20 people. Got some good feedback, someone happy to be there, or happy with what we're doing. And that's about it. I've been a bit quiet.
That's excellent.
Quite a lot.
Thank you. Councillor Payne?
She says.
Oh, hang on, I'll turn it back on.
Unmute.
Yeah, got to find the button. On the 30th of January, hang on, can you hear me?
Yep.
30th of January, the Deputy CEO and I attended via audio video link the Greenfield Hospital Advocacy meeting. Look, a lot of repetitive discussions, not much come out of it. The Better Border Health advocacy group that were there have initiated a rally for the 5th of March at the Vic Parliament House to make a stance. And again, the hospital was, I think, in the media last night or this morning about its concept plans and oversight to what the community needs. But there was another meeting on Wednesday the 12th, was it Wednesday the 12th? Anyway, it was the 13th of Feb. There was another meeting. The Deputy CEO and I discussed that there probably wasn't too much that we could get out of that meeting, so we declined and thought we'll touch base with them again and see whether they've gotten any further. Hopefully after the rally there's a bit more that comes forward from the Vic Parliament. On Wednesday the 12th, I attended the ARIC meeting instead of the listening post. So thank you to Catherine and Sharon for holding down the fort on that one. The ARIC meeting, as always, great discussions and outcomes. Some really good questions from Linda that were emailed through to Simon. But I think they'll come through at a later date, those questions. And that's really all from me.
Excellent. Thank you. Councillor Natikoa?
Attended the WebEx golf lunch on the 30th of Jan, which was actually quite good. And sitting with Uncle Dozer with Catherine was actually, there was some good conversations that were happening there. And we also had, I think his name was Paul, from Yarrawonga, the Mawela Golf Club over there. And just listening to some of the things that are going along the Murray at all the different golf resorts and things like that was, I guess, a bit eye-opening for me, not having any interest in golf. Mini golf's kind of my skill level, and I think that's where it will stay for the remainder of my life.
It's more skill than I have.
So that was actually, it was just a really good eye-opening, I guess, to actually what goes on in the broader area. and then also attended the Berrigan and Toke listening posts, which were quite informative. And I think good discussions in both. Like I think we had 6 in Berrigan, so you actually got to really talk them through. But I think the general consensus is we come up, we give you our feedback, but then we hear nothing. So what can we do? So we were definitely directing them to entering in work requests and things like that, saying, yes, we are taking notes, but it also helps if it comes from you. So hopefully there's something that comes through from that as well. So that was it.
Excellent. Thank you, Councillor Dennis.
Yeah, it was Wednesday the 12th for the listening posts, both at Finley. The main thing that came out of Finley, of course, was the water quality and water pressure. It was a big theme throughout, just about every person raised. And to also have feedback from the listening post was important to a lot of people. The Berrigan one, same, was feedback was requested, that they have feedback from issues that were raised. Went to the Citizenship Awards as well, and congratulations to all involved. It was very well done and very well spoken, and the guest speaker was awesome, so thank you. Went to the Tocumwal Rotary as an invited member, and great discussions from that as well. And weed management was one of the priorities, as well as the residents that they're currently in. The foreshore meeting was at Tocumwal. That was also very informative. Lots of questions, I guess, flow on from that, and I'm sure there'll be other meetings and other presentations that will follow through from that as well. And again, some feedback. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hannan.
Yeah, I attended the Berrigan listening post and the Tocumwal one as well. I think all the feedback's been collated, and Councillor Dennis and Councillor Natikoa and Councillor Healy all took notes, so I didn't have to. I was there to listen. That was what it was called, a listening post. And then again, last night there was enough note-taking at Tocumwal to just be able to listen and understand the sentiment of the community. And just as I said earlier in the meeting, if we're going to continue to engage, we need to make sure that we're getting a broad range of engagement as well. I think it's extremely important. Thank you.
Thank you. CEO, do you have anything you wish to?
I'm back in the office. The first couple of days have been back-to-back meetings, which is pretty good. But yeah, it's been a big couple of months. So thank you for the time to do it. But we've got a lot of other things we need to do too. So yes, thank you, Matt, for doing 2 jobs for a while.
Yep. And Deputy CEO, do you have any? No. Anyone else?
Can I just add something? Sorry.
Yes.
I think it's important, and I can't. That I don't know if it was mentioned earlier, that the community knows that we are also providing, collating our feedback that was gathered from the listening posts. And whilst some people will put in some work requests, there was some commitment to us making contact with those members of the community. And my only other thing, sorry, I just forgot to recognise the work that the team actually put into the online streaming of our Australia Day ceremony. I think that's quite tricky, and I really that was how I was able to participate in the day, being away. And I think that it just needs to be acknowledged that the team did a really good job to make that happen for us to be able to.
Thank you for that, because they were a little, I think, hurt by some of the comments that were made, because people weren't there and they couldn't see that there was a flag there, and that it was raised as part of protocol and all of the other things.
I appreciated that, and I commented myself with that, because what ended up happening was that they were trying to do the right thing and respond to those comments, to move it so that people could see that there were 2 flags, but actually what that did was it impacted the quality of the audio, and I appreciate that they were trying to really juggle the different, trying to meet people's needs and please people, and I was disappointed that they had to experience that, but I was really grateful that really, it
Yeah.
was,
We had people there till 7 o'clock on the Friday night setting up. We had them there
Yeah,
early
there's a
that
lot of
morning.
effort that
6 o'clock
goes into
we
it.
started on that morning, so yeah.
so sorry, I just
Yeah,
forgot
no,
to add
thank you
that.
very much. It
Thank
is-
you
that's
for
really
raising that,
appreciated.
councillor, because there's some very unfortunate social media, not just on our own pages, and the racism directed at myself,
Again,
again. Anyway, we won't go.
That, looking at racism in any form is unacceptable, but we do have another pop-up flag that could actually be on the stage because people see
Yeah.
what they see, they don't see what they don't
Sure.
see.
Yeah.
And to your point, the quality of the viewing or the positioning of the viewing, you could only see one flag, so you could understand, and it's happened 2 years in a row now, and we have had that solid feedback. We've got to pull up right there. Let's just take the
they get
noise out.
broken every year we take them.
But
so,
also,
yeah.
I don't know that with the view, like the view, you wouldn't fit to it. Like, I think that there's more for the team that they can work that out,
No,
and problem
I know,
solve
but
that
it's
for
a
next
simple-
year. But I think
A
that,
simple solution to a
yeah,
you know, we only got to look at what's happening overseas in different pockets.
Yeah.
We don't need to incite any more of that in our own little back pocket.
I just hope the team appreciates that or understands that the majority of the community appreciated the work that they put into it. There
100%.
might have been some loud voices, but I think that
Thank you. That is
Yeah.
very much appreciated by the people who put in the time.
It was a very good event. All right, so thank you, everyone. Our next ordinary council meeting will be on Wednesday, 19th of March at 4:30 here at 56 Chanter Street, Berrigan. There being no further business, I'll close this meeting at 11:38 a.m. Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Right, Guy.